You drive over a bridge and you'd say, why don't you climb all the way to the top of that bridge and just jump off it? Now I would never do that. But it's in your head, and I would never do that to my family. I would certainly certainly would not do that to Kate and Harry. So you kind of just start saying, well, let's figure out a better way to do this, right? And life is it's never going to be better without you in it. It's just not. I understand that there are people who are listening who weren't listening in 2018 when I was at the EI and took some time off. Went to McLean, obviously, which has been parodied musically and comedically. I hope that I certainly don't want any of that to go away. Let me be very clear about that. It's not going to become one of these shows where we lose our sense of humor. That's of course not going away. So, the long and short of it was then in 2018, it was about a year after my parents passed away. I think that broke me a little bit. Sort of, they were both sick. If you don't know, if you do know, you can hit the 30-second thing until you get to the point where I'm saying something you don't know, I suppose. They were both very sick. They both died about 7 weeks apart. Had a lot of stress at the job with Bob Murchison. And just had my own natural history of depression, which I've talked about in the old podcast I did. Which is that, I've been hospitalized for it a few times. In high school, I was hospitalized for it. I probably have not spoken fully about how serious that particular episode was in my life. Really, to a lot of people. I think my parents are probably the only two who know, and me now, I'm the only one living who probably really knows. That was, the closest I would say I came to actually doing something, even more than a couple of years ago when I was standing on which we'll get to in a second. That was probably the closest I was at. I was 18 at that point. And it's been up and down throughout my life. And I've talked about this before. My mom had it in very severe depression, sort of paralyzingly so at times. She battled it her entire life. And her side of the family had a lot of it, I suppose. And it's, it's just has got me. And there are times where I'm feeling great, and there are times where I'm not feeling great. And that particular time 2 years ago was not a great time, not feeling good. And I went up to McLean, and I thought it was, I had suicidal thoughts I didn't want to act on. And it had, with medication and therapy and other stuff, leaving Entercom was great. Coming to Barstool was great. It made me feel better. Defeating Murchison with the help of everyone, John Featherston at the top and all the way down, everybody. Defeating that repugnant human being. Just a terrible person. Felt good to slay him. He turned out to be, and we'll get to another bully later, he turned out to be one of these bullies that once you punch him back in the face, as I told people for years, he would go away, and that's what happened. He went away. He's a bully, and he takes advantage of people because he has nothing else to do. So that all made me feel better, for sure. And then all of a sudden, and I say a month ago, I don't know, it could have been 5 weeks ago, could have been whenever, I could start feeling it again. I've talked about it before. It's sort of this feeling in my touching between, I don't know, my ribs almost or whatever. It just starts feeling a little overwhelming. And it's, I'm feeling a little bit right now. It's a lot of it's anxiety, to be honest with you. And then it kind of moves its way up, and it just kind of is this cloud that gets sort of engulfs your brain and sort of weighs down on you. And you just get really, really down, and you get really, irritable, even more than usual. And you get angrier, and you get, there were times even before this show, after my run, I'd be sitting in the car, in the last few weeks, I'd be looking for sad music to play so I could cry to it. Or, I would just be purposely looking for things that would make me want to cry. And I'd be crying a lot. And, I'd be crying at home a lot. And I think, certainly for my wife, who saw it a few years ago before I went away, I could tell she was starting thinking, geez, and she was trying to talk to me. And I think I was better about communicating at this time than last time, I think. But it gets to the point where you're just, you just feel, I described it before as an elephant standing on your chest, and that's kind of how it feels. You feel like you can't breathe at all. You can't move at all. But you do it because, you have a life and a job and a family, and you want it. And there are days, and even in the middle of it, there are moments and days where you feel pretty good. And you think, oh, well, okay, it looks like this guy's going to go away for a while, but then he comes back. And there were times even, maybe say a year, I don't know, where I was down for a couple of weeks, but not like this. And then all of a sudden the thoughts come back again. And it's not thinking a couple of years ago, I was thinking about, I was looking at train schedules and walking on train tracks. We all know that. We've seen, the songs and the t-shirts and the jokes, which I joke about as well. And trust, and as I said, that's not going to stop. That didn't manifest itself in any particular way this time, other than, there was just a voice in my head. There was my voice. It was not, and I've had these hallucinations before as well. It was not that this time. It was me saying, and you'd be driving and you drive somewhere and say, why don't you just kill yourself? Just kill yourself. Why don't you kill yourself? Just kill yourself. It'd be easy. Just kill yourself. Or you could kill yourself. You can kill yourself. You drive over a bridge and you'd say, why don't you climb all the way to the top of that bridge and just jump off it? Now I would never do that. But it's in your head, and it's in your head, and in your head, and 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 it's talking to other, and you can't make it stop. And you start thinking, and once that started for me a couple weeks ago, I started thinking, well, I'm not going to do that. I would never do that to my family. I would certainly would not do that to Kate and Harry. So, you kind of just start saying, well, let's figure out. Let's figure out a better way to do this, right? Let's try and get a better way to handle this. And I think last time it took me a lot longer to get there. This time I said, hey, I'm feeling this way. Talk to my doctor. Talk to my wife. That was really, I think, about it at that point. And said, I'm feeling this way. I cannot, I don't want to go to an inpatient clinic again. It just scared me. I was scared in there last time. It was just scary. There were people in there, God bless them, very kind people, nice people, but people who were really, really, who I wouldn't be surprised if they're still there now. 2 miles away from me, and shame on me for never checking, I don't know. But it scares me, and it's a great facility. I didn't want to be somewhere where I couldn't get out. I just did not. It made me super anxious, and I was at the point where I would have just taken off again and done one of these drives, or, just not beneficial at all. So we talked and we found a place. It's out of state. It's not far away, though. And it was good, and we talked, and, we were there last week. I'll be there this week as well. There's a belief, I think, with some of there's some bipolar talk, which I don't know is fair, and I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me, really. Whatever the diagnosis is, whatever they come up with is fine. There'll be medication, different medication. I'm gonna try and take it. I don't like taking medication. I don't like being governed by it. I don't like the way it makes me feel sometimes. But I recognize that that's where I'm at right now. That's how it's going to be. This is how it's going to be for the rest of my life, which, is okay once you get your head around it. There are going to be, 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, you'll be listening to a show. You won't even remember this show. And you'll be thinking, you won't even think of anything. You'll think, oh, it's another funny show today, another great show today. They did this, they did that, or, oh, that show sucked today. And I'll feel that way too. And I'll think, oh, well, good. And you don't think about it. Like you don't think about Christmas on March 22nd, but it's there. It's looming. It'll show up. It's like anything else. It's like, you pay your taxes and you don't think about it probably for 10 months. I know it's going to come back, and I just have to get to the point where I recognize, even before I did this time, which I was better than last time, I've got to understand once that starts happening, I have to be more proactive about it. And I hope to be. I can't promise I'm going to be. I can't promise I won't be. I can't promise that after 3 weeks of doing this show again, like last time, I'm going to take a month off like I did 2 years ago. Maybe I'll take 2 months off. Maybe I won't come back at all. I don't know. What I know is, as you saw last week, and I didn't really pay much attention. Excuse me. If at all, the first 4 or 5 days on social media, but just the way people from Barstool reached out to me privately, and I saw on social media. I mean, it's obviously a different working environment than that hellhole Entercom, filled with terrible people. David Field, a terrible person, all the way down to the bottom. Barstool's not. And, and here's the difference is Entercom thought, well, Kirk is leaving for mental health. We can use this legitimate guy who's fighting for his life as an excuse to keep him off the air, to keep a baseball team happy, and to keep Murchison off our backs. And they were wrong, of course, about that. And that's a wonderful thing. Even if Murchison were still around and doing this every day, the people at Barstool would have still had the same reaction to me as they did last week. I know Erica would have. I know Dave would have. Put it this way. All the people you expected to reach out reached out and have been great and have been offering to do stuff and still check in, and it's fantastic. And they're just great people. And trust, I know 2 weeks from now I'm going to be fighting with Barstool over something. They're going to piss me off, but know that I love them. So no matter how mad I get, no matter how it ends with us, whether it ends 6 months from now or 2 years from now or whatever, when I needed them, they were there for me, and listen, I love them. That's the way it is. Sometimes they drive me nuts. Sometimes I drive them nuts. But, Entercom rooted for me to be sick and to go through stuff for that. Barstool's the opposite. They have been fantastic. So even with that, even without Murchison, even with the job I like and working with people I like, that can still happen. So it can happen to anybody at any time, and it doesn't matter. And look, I'm not stupid. I understand I have the means and opportunity to take this time off where, if somebody's pumping gas or working somewhere in West Virginia or wherever, and they're just struggling to raise 6 kids, they may not be able to do that. So I totally get that. It's an advantage I'm afforded, and I'm grateful for it. But there are people like me who can, and I hope they do get the help that they need, because it can come at any time, and it's a real disease, and it's as real as any disease you want. It's a real thing. It's been going on since the beginning of time. It's not going to stop. And the people who reached out to me, even privately or emails or messages or whatever, the last week or so, a lot of people have told me about their stories, and I've heard a lot of that in the past. And when I hear stories about that, I like to reach out as much as I can and let them know that, I'm, if you ever need me, I'm here. And I mean that now too, even though I'm suffering and struggling right now. If you're listening and you're hurting, I'm here for you. I understand what you're going through. Maybe not specifically, and maybe yours is more profound or exaggerate, or whatever you want to call it, or less or whatever. And I mean this for men and women. And I know women struggle a lot with mental health too, but I do think, and I thought this 2 years ago, I think it now, and I can't believe the amount of emails and stuff I've got 2 years ago and now. I'm talking thousands of messages and emails and stuff from men who are suffering with this. I get it. It's a stigma. It's embarrassing. You think it's emasculating. It's not. It's just not. We're going to make that go away. We're going to do that. That's what we're going to do. So, let's work together on that. And I'll try and communicate once in a while on the air. If I'm not feeling great, I'll do the best I can. This is not going to become a mental health podcast. Trust me, we're not doing that. Although I suppose in some ways we always do that in a way. I guess this is just a daily update on my mental health. So, we can do that. And just talk. If you don't feel great, just talk about it. I know it sucks. I know it feels weird to say. It does. It's not fun. I don't like doing it either. It sucks, but you got to do it. You got to stay alive. I talk to people all the time. These people who reach out to me who have kids, who lost their job, who did this, who did that. And life is, it's never going to be better, without you in it. It's just not. I mean, that's just the way it is. But But I would also say, there is a stigma for this, but it's getting better. I think there's progress, and I think people talk about it. And it doesn't matter if you're making $700,000 a year or $7,000 a year. Kate Spade is not alive. Anthony Bourdain is not alive. History is filled with successful people who did this, and history is filled with unsuccessful people who did this. So it does not pick and choose for wealth or lack thereof, or race or lack thereof, or anything or lack thereof. It just comes and it gets you, and it knocks you down, and it's hell getting back up. But you have to.